Language has created the word loneliness to express the pain of being alone, and it has created the word solitude to express the glory of being alone. There is a room inside you that most people never enter, not because they can't, because they won't. They fill every silence with noise, every empty hour with someone else's voice, someone else's opinion, someone else's version of who they should be. They call it connection. What it actually is escape. Escape from the one conversation that changes everything. The conversation you have with yourself when no one else is in the room. You are not alone right now because life failed you. You are alone because something in you is serious. Something in you is done performing. Something in you has decided, maybe without words, maybe without a plan, that the next version of you gets built in silence, not in the noise where you've been building nothing for years. Most people are terrified of silence, not because silence is empty, because silence is full. Full of the questions they've been avoiding, full of the answers they already know but aren't ready to act on, full of the version of themselves they've been postponing. When you sit in that silence and you don't run, when you stay in the room, something shifts. The noise that used to feel like company starts to feel like what it always was, a distraction. And the silence that used to feel like punishment starts to feel like the first honest thing you've experienced in years. That is not loneliness. That is arrival. The more we define ourselves in relation to the people around us, the more lost we are. Read that slowly. Every time you measured yourself against someone else, their progress, their timeline, their results, their life, you handed them the pen and let them write your story. Every time you checked what they thought before you decided what you believed, you made yourself a footnote in their chapter instead of the author of your own. The person who knows who they are without an audience, who doesn't need the room to agree, the feed to validate, the group to confirm. That person is dangerous in the best possible way. They cannot be controlled. They cannot be redirected by opinion. They move through the world with a kind of gravity that most people spend their entire lives searching for and never find because they keep looking for it in other people's eyes. The true cancers of the mind are comparing, complaining, criticizing. Not laziness, not failure, not even fear. Comparing, complaining, criticizing. Because those three things feel productive. They feel like thinking, like awareness, like discernment, while they quietly hollow you out from the inside. Every moment you spend measuring your chapter 3 against someone else's chapter 20 is a moment you didn't spend writing. Every complaint is a vote for powerlessness, a declaration that the problem is out there, beyond you, beyond your reach. And every time you turn your focus to what's wrong with someone else, you are burning the exact energy that could be building something of your own. Solitude breaks all three patterns at once. In the silence, there is no one to compare to, no one to blame, no one to judge. There is only you and the work, and the distance between who you are and who you intend to become. Find me someone who has gone to the darkest parts of their own character, where they were so close to their own self-destruction, and found a way to get up and out of it, and I will bow on my knees to you. For you have mastered yourself in pure strength. That person is rare. That person is the most powerful kind of human being alive. Not because they were never broken, but because they went all the way into the break and came back carrying something no one can take from them. You cannot get there in a crowd. You cannot get there in the noise. The darkest parts of your own character do not reveal themselves in public. They reveal themselves in the silence, in the 3 a.m. moments, in the room with no audience, in the hours when no performance is required. Those are the moments that define you, not the highlights, not the wins. The moments when there was no one watching and you chose, against every easier option, to keep going. Here is the thing about being alone that no one tells you. It is in the solitude that you find out what you actually believe, not what you've been told to believe, not what the people around you believe, not what the algorithm has decided you should believe, what you believe at the level beneath language, beneath reputation, beneath the version of you that exists for other people's consumption. That discovery is violent sometimes. It is uncomfortable. It will show you opinions you didn't know you held, and fears you didn't know you carried, and strengths you had completely forgotten. But it is real, and real is the rarest thing available to a human being in a world built entirely on performance and signal and the management of how you appear. Actually, the greatest detachment is being close to everything and not letting it consume and own you. That's real strength, not distance, not isolation, not building a wall so high that nothing can reach you. The real strength is being fully present, in the noise, in the chaos, in the crowd, and remaining entirely yourself, untouched at the core. This is what solitude builds, not the ability to hide, the ability to stand in the middle of everything and belong to none of it. The person who has spent real time alone, real, uncomfortable, productive time alone, walks differently into every room they enter. They are not performing. They are not seeking. They are not waiting for the room to tell them who they are. They already know. And that knowing is the most powerful thing one human being can carry into any space. For each day that comes ahead, just remember, you are the sky. Everything else is just the weather. The rejection, the silence from people who should have responded, the plan that collapsed, the month that didn't go the way it was supposed to, the opinion of someone who doesn't understand what you're building. Weather. All of it is weather. It passes. It changes. It does not alter what you are at the level that matters. The sky does not negotiate with storms. The sky does not apologize for rain. The sky does not shrink to accommodate bad weather. It simply remains vast, unchanged, present, while the weather moves through and moves on. You are practicing that right now. Every day you spend in your own company, without the noise, without the validation, without the crowd telling you who to be, you are becoming more sky and less weather. That is not a small thing. That is everything. Failures are only failures when we don't learn from them, because when we learn from them, they become lessons. And solitude is where the learning happens, not in the debrief with friends, not in the post-mortem meeting, not in the group chat, in the silence, when it's just you and the thing that went wrong. That is where the real extraction happens. That is where you pull out the lesson that is actually useful instead of the story that makes you feel better. Most people never do this work. They move from failure to distraction without ever sitting in the experience long enough to understand what it was trying to teach them. You cannot rush that process. You cannot crowdsource it. You have to be willing to sit in the room with what didn't work and stay there until you know, not just what happened, but why and what it means and what you will do differently because of it. Right now, not tomorrow, not when things get easier, not when you feel ready. Right now, In whatever silence surrounds you, something is available to you that is not available anywhere else. The clearest version of your own mind. The most honest assessment of where you are and where you're going. The quiet recognition of what you actually want, underneath all the noise of what you've been told to want. Most people live their entire lives and never access this. They are too afraid of what they'll find. You are not most people because you are still here, still in this, still willing to sit in the silence instead of running from it. That willingness alone makes you rare. This is not about being a loner. This is not about cutting people off or building walls or deciding the world doesn't deserve you. This is about something far more precise. Knowing who you are before you walk into the room so that the room cannot define you. Knowing what you believe before the conversation starts so that the conversation cannot redirect you. Knowing what you're building before anyone else can see it so that their doubt cannot touch the foundation. Solitude is not the destination. Solitude is the forge. You go in unformed and you come out with an edge. And the person who has that edge, who has done the real internal work in the real silence, that person changes every room they enter. Not loudly, not by demanding attention, by simply being so completely themselves that the people around them feel it. You came into this world alone. You will leave alone. Every decision that has ever actually mattered, you made it alone, in the quiet, in the moment when it was just you and the truth and the choice in front of you. The crowd was never there for the real moments. The crowd is never there for the real moments. Solitude is not something that happens to you when life gets quiet. Solitude is the practice of becoming so fully yourself that you are never dependent on the noise to feel whole. That is not loneliness. Loneliness is what happens when you need the room and the room is empty. Solitude is what happens when you are the room, full, complete, unmovable. And the people who walk in are lucky to be there. That is who you are becoming. That is who you already are if you're willing to stay in the silence long enough to meet them. Always remember, if you can be anything in life, be a Stoic.